Polymorphism via inheritance. So consider the following class hierarchy: staff member, volunteer as well as employee. In employee, there are two kinds of categories: executive and hourly. Polymorphism via inheritance. Now consider the task of playing all employees. Interface hierarchies. Inheritance that can be applied to interfaces as well as classes. One interface that can be derived from another interface. The child interface inherits all abstract methods of the parent. A class implementing the child interface that must define all methods from both the ancestor and child interfaces. All members of an interface are public. Note that class hierarchies and interface hierarchies are distinct. They do not overlap. Polymorphism via interfaces. An interface name that can be used as the type of an object reference variable. Double space object. The object reference that can be used to point to any object of any class that implements the double interface. The version of do the that the following line invokes depend on this type of object, the object that referencing object dot do this function. Interface, inheritance and GUIs. An applet is an excellent example of inheritance. Recall that when we define an applet, we extend the applet class or the JApplet class. The applet and JApplet classes already handle all the details about applet creation and execution, which including interaction with the web browser, accepting applet parameters through HTML, enforcing security restrictions. Inheritance and GUI continuation. Our applet classes only have to deal with issues that specifically relate to what our particular applet will do. When we define the paint method of an applet, for instance, we are actually overriding a method defined in the component class, which is ultimately inherited into the applet or JApplet class. The component class hierarchy. The Java classes that define GUI components are part of a class hierarchy. Swing GUI components typically are derived from the JComponent class, which is derived from the container class, which is derived from the component class. Many swing components that can serve as containers is a limited one because they are derived from the container class. Mouse events. Events related to the mouse are separated into the mouse events and mouse motion events. Mouse events: mouse pressed, mouse released, mouse clicked, mouse entered, mouse exited. Mouse events: mouse pressed, the mouse button is pressed down. Mouse released, the mouse button is released. Mouse clicked, the mouse button is pressed down and released without moving the mouse in between. Mouse entered, the mouse pointer is moved onto over a component. Mouse exited, the mouse pointer is moved off of a component. Mouse events: mouse motion events. Mouse moved, the mouse is moved. Mouse dragged, the mouse is dragged. To satisfy the implementation of a listener interface, empty methods that must be provided for unused events. An array list object is used to store objects, so they can be redrawn as necessary. This is the dots program. This is an example of the dots program. Mouse events. Each time the repaint method is called of an applet, the window is cleared prior to calling paint. Rubber banding is the visual effect that is caused by stretching a shape as it's shown using the mouse. This is the rubber line programs. The applet output is like this. Applet started. And even adapter classes, listener classes that can be created by implementing a particular interface, such as mouse listener interface. A listener also can be created by extending an event adapter class. Each listener interface has a corresponding adapter class, such as the mouse adapter class. Each adapter class implements the corresponding listener and provides empty method definitions. Event adapter classes. When we derive a listener class from an adapter class, we override any event methods of interest such as the mouse click method. Empty definitions for unused event methods that is need not to be provided. This is the off-center program. The distance is 138.96. Here the update that has been started. In summary of in chapter 7 that has focused on deriving a new classes from existing classes, creating class hierarchies, the protected modifiers, polymorphism via inheritance, inheritance hierarchies for interfaces, inheritance used in graphical user interfaces.